Winter greetings from Estonia to everybody. Happy New Year. As you can see, it's pretty cold outside. Today is actually pretty nice, but real feel yesterday by AccuWeather in here was minus 29 degrees. It was windy and it was just hell. So it's really, really cold outside. There's lots of snow. And this is why Estonians actually don't like to be outside too much. They stay indoors and build cars. So let's just go in there. So here we are in the garage where it's nice and warm, at least 20 degrees where we can work. And as you can see, the car is starting to take shape, at least the rear part of it. And we are now already going in stereo, sort of. We are making the other side as well. So far we've been doing parts for this car only on one side to get the shape right. But now that we see that it's pretty much there, we start to understand how it goes, how it flows. We put some pieces in there. Everything is holding on right now with little screws. Screws are nice to have. Of course, if we would have a bunch of Clicos, that might be even nicer. But screws are simple. You need to drill a lot of holes. You need to make some special brackets sometimes to hold everything in place, but basically you can see the shape, and it's better than to spot weld all the pieces to place all the time, because in order to take the panel off, if you see something's going wrong, you need to remove it or you need to get under it. You have 4 or 5 screws. Unscrewing them is no big issue. It just goes like this. And later on you can fill the holes with welder, or if you need to. But in our case, we are going to use the same sheet metal parts to produce the first glass fiber parts or molds. But basically, as we are building a model, we will make glass fiber parts and then glue everything back together, paint it really nice, and then make the molds maybe. We'll see. That's still in the process. And because we are making like one step in a head direction, and oftentimes you need to take a couple of steps back. If you make this piece here, this is the outer skin of the hatch. So everything depends on the outer skin, but then you see that I need a drainage for the water, because the water is coming from somewhere and it needs to go away. And there needs to be a weather strip. So this needs an edge to hold on to, and then you need the inside layer for the rear hatch in order to give it structural strength. So when you make this, you know that this is the shape. Then you also need to think how everything figures out down there, the inner layer, then the weather strip distance, then the edge where the weather strip attaches. Then the water needs to flow somewhere, so you need angles so that it actually flows. It doesn't pour into your car. The carpets will be wet, everything will be really nasty, and it starts to rot in there. So there is a lot of things to figure out how to do, and sometimes you do it twice or 3 times or even more times, just because you made some other piece and you see, okay, the first thing that I did, it just doesn't work with that. And clearly, for example, the weather stripping edge here, down here, that I already made, and I had an idea that it actually flows both ways down. Now it's stuck on this, so I need to get it down. Maybe I even need to cut the plastic wall down here to make room for it, so we'll see about that. But that's why I tell that it takes time to put a custom body on top of a car. You need a lot of brackets, systems, how it holds together. Will there be a cut line somewhere? This is the fender, this is the rear part. How do they attach to the car? Is it made from several parts that are glued together? And there is no cut line, for example, in here. So everything, the rear part, like on original Corvettes, sometimes it's just everything is glued together. Or we have the cut line, it bolts to the edge somewhere. So there is so many things that can need to be figured out. And sometimes there are no right or wrong. It's easy if it's like black and white. No, but they're both right. You just need to figure out whether the edge here that could be seen, whether it works with the design or it doesn't. If it doesn't work with the design, it starts to hurt it, okay. Then we need to figure out a way to do it in one piece. But to make a huge mold, where you can have this fender, that fender, and the rear part, that needs a really, really structural integrity. It needs a lot of strength to keep its shape, because if the mold is twisted, the part you take out is also twisted, and it's really, really hard to fit on the car. So that means that we actually have to then weld everything together, then weld some frames on top of it, then take everything out of here, already, fix some legs on it so it can be put on a table. And then you need to think that, okay, there are too many edges that are standing this way or even this way. So it will be really, really hard to laminate plastic in glass fiber into the mold. So, or the mold is getting really, really complicated and the part will not come out of it. So you need to have mold that actually separates in many, many pieces. So these are all the stuff that you need to consider when doing this. It's rather so much easier actually to make it from the metal. If this was to be a metal car, things would be much more easy. But we've decided we're going to use modern era lightweight material, so we just need to figure out how to do it. So the first thing we actually welded together was the front wing, and actually half of it. To see how it goes and what sort of finish we can achieve. And the worst part in this case was actually this shape here. There are so many things going on in here, so many curves in all the direction. For example, this goes in from here, and there is a sort of a bubble, but because this edge is straight, and then you need to get into the curvature. That was actually very, very difficult to do. But I did it anyway. So we have some shape here, but because of the headlamp that is pretty long, the rest of the nose that we had needs to be redone. And therefore we also started to redesign the nose part, because it gets a little bit longer, and some of the lines that we used to have, for example, how this curve goes down, will sort of be a little bit messy. So, but the side view will pretty much still be the same. I'm pretty happy with that. That looks nice. All right, all of you who are into car building, and everybody knows pretty much what this is. This is self-made English wheel machine, which I built myself, and I've been upgrading it several times when I see that it's not strong enough or needs something to do. But with the rear hatch, I had a piece that had so many curves in it that I couldn't really control the shape. So there is a trick that you use. Well, this is pretty common knowledge to all of you, that you use a rubber band on top of the English wheel, steel wheel. So the effect of that will be that it actually moves or shapes the curvature of the metal into this shape, but not in this shape. With the metal wheel, you also get it curving this way a little bit. But with the rubber band, it's mostly this way. But as it was difficult to control this piece, I needed to figure out something else. So I went into the store and I bought trailer support wheel, which is made full of rubber. I needed to work on it a little bit because it had grooves in it. But eventually I got it in shape, and I discovered a very funny and interesting thing, what you can do with it. Of course, it will work better in shaping the metal in one direction, just as the lower anvil does. But you can also make curving bends with it. So if I have a very narrow radius die here, and I have a curving line here, if I put enough pressure on it, I try to follow the line. And actually, I can bend it quite easily. And it's really difficult to do these sort of bends. And you need them very often, especially when you have this sort of big project going on. And if you go some more times on it, for example, you can have larger radius for it. It all needs a little bit of eye and very good eye and hand coordination, but you can see what you can do with that, and that's pretty amazing, and it stays pretty flat after the bending, and amazing. So that was my little tip for you. It cost 25 euros and half a day of my own labor. The upgrade for this, I need to install here roller bearings, then it actually moves a little bit better. But all right. Happy New Year from our cold Estonian climate, and hopefully when it gets warm we can actually take this car outside, but we'll see how life goes. Bye.